Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Admit Day for the School of the New York Times. My name is Ray Ravalia. I'm the Director of Pre-College Programs here at the school. I want to start by saying that we are live streaming today's event, so if there is anyone who doesn't want to be on camera or adverse to the back of their head being streamed, then I'd advise you to go to the back area over there. But otherwise, just be known that there may be people attending this summer who will say, I think I recognize you from the live stream. Were you sitting in the second row? Those will probably be people sitting behind you at some other function. Like, that back of the head looks familiar. But no, thank you everyone for coming here today. We're gonna spend about an hour today sitting here en masse, after which we'll go back and demolish what's left of the refreshments. I just wanna make a few general remarks and do some introductions, and then I'll let the faculty come up and each talk for a few minutes, and that will take us to about 2 o'clock, at which point we'll move on into the more administrative detail part, where I'll answer the wide array of questions as what should I bring, how does arrival work, what are we doing on the weekends, what are the difference between residential and day students, and the other burning questions that people have and that people have been emailing in. I want to stress, though, that this program, part of what's going to make it special is that we are not just taking these kids here for 2 weeks and chaining them to their desks and making them go to school 2 weeks longer. It's the summer. They've been in school all year. This is an opportunity to do something different, an opportunity for them really to get out of the classroom and into the world and see how the ideas that they've been reading about intersect the careers that they might explore later on. We want this to be a summer that sets the spark, ignites the passion, really gives kids that sense of what is possible, what are they working for, what they might want to do later in life. So this is all about setting the inspiration and giving them that experience that is transformative. For the younger students who are doing the explorations, this is an opportunity to go from being interested in everything to figuring out those particular things that you might want to look at in more detail. For the kids who are doing the intensives, here's an opportunity to figure out if this really is the thing that you're passionate about, or what aspect of it is that is really driving you. My own experience, I went to an 8-week residential math camp between junior year and senior year, and that was that time where I really discovered that what I wanted to do when I got to college was study philosophy. I did mathematics as well, but it was an opportunity to both figure out the thing that I thought I was good at, where it went, and then to discover new interests. And that's what this summer is going to be about, really taking the kids through what they're excited about and exposing them to new ideas and new people. A program like this really depends for its quality on the students and the faculty. And that's where the magic happens. It's getting the right people together and in some sense getting out of their way. And so I'm going to get out of your way pretty soon, let the faculty come up here and work their magic. I do want to stress too that this is the first year that we're doing this program at the New York Times. I bring about 20 years of experience doing similar programs like this at places like Stanford University. But looking at this program, looking at the group of kids who've applied here, really excited to see the broad range of talent and diversity. We have kids, about 36% of the kids are coming from the tri-state area. We have about 40 states now represented with kids coming this summer, about half a dozen countries. So really a broad and interesting mix of folk. So let me do a few introductions here before I pass it over. If I can have Joelle and Farah. Joelle's still downstairs signing people in. So Joelle's the registrar. Many of you will have dealt with her either by phone or email. And then Farah, who's our enrollment coordinator over there. Many of you have spoken to her on the phone as well. Want to also thank the folk who've put together all the beautiful visuals. We have Jonathan Friedlander from marketing standing back there behind the camera to the left. And we also have Michael Chung from CIG, who's really the person who set these wheels in motion a few years ago, what's led to this today. A special thanks to Greg Miller from the New York Times, who has really helped shepherd everything that we're doing here and who made sure that the space and everything works out well today for us. So thank you all. With this, let me hand it over to Julie Bleha, my assistant director, and have her introduce the faculty. Julie?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We are beyond excited to see you here. It's an amazing program. I've been working really hard the past few months, working on programming with these amazing instructors here. And as I have said to them, and I've said to numerous students, I really want to take all of these classes. I would have to clone myself many times over to be able to do that. But the selection, the breadth, the depth of classes on offer are amazing. And this is only a sampling of our staff. So what you will come to learn as you hear them speak about themselves and their work, some of them are full-time New York Times staffers and writers, some have worked here in the past and have moved on to other related fields, and some are experts in their fields whom we have brought on board because we see them as comparable in talent and skill and energy and passion to what we are offering with our Times staffers. And all of our classes, many of our classes will also include other guests from the New York Times. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them one by one, and then we can take a moment as each one after I finish the first round of introductions, and I'm going to ask each person to just come up and spend a minute or two to speak about their class. And if you've already registered for another class and then you just simply have to take a class with the person speaking, come back and see us next year, please. So first of all is Eduardo Porter, who was a past member of the editorial board, correct, of the New York Times. Eduardo writes the economic scene column for the paper, and he's going to be teaching a class called The Price of Everything, Steering the Global Economic Engine. And then after him is Ari Goldman, who, as I said, some of our instructors used to work here at the Times. Ari now is a professor at Columbia's Journalism School, and in the past months that I've had the privilege to work with Ari, I think he's got New York Times in his blood and his DNA. He is so proud and pleased to share what he knows about the paper with you all. So you're all lucky who get to work with him. Shira Dicker here is running our activities and events program, which I'm going to let Shira have the pleasure of telling you what we're calling it because it's her baby. Lois Raffin, who is the chair of the English and Theater Department at Hunter College High School. Again, I've had the privilege of working with Lois this past year, and her dedication to her students is just incredibly inspiring. And again, if you're with her, you're beyond lucky. Brooke Berman is going to be leading our exploration classes in writing for the screen. Swati RA is teaching our intensive course on fashion, the future of fashion, because Swati's got a lot of wisdom to drop on that front. And then Fernando Perez there at the end is going, well, once again, I have the tagline. Can I say it about the only? So Fernando is going to be actually teaching two classes for us. One is the sports management and media, and the other is a creative and cultural writing. Fernando is an ex-MLB player, and he holds an MFA in creative writing from Columbia. Okay, he's on the road. But the tagline that I love, that I have been dropping every which place I can, is that Fernando is the MLB player who also has the accolade of having been published in Poetry magazine. So I defy you to find anyone else who can say that. Anyway, they're all amazing, and I'm going to let Eduardo take over and speak a few words about his class. So thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. So again, I'm Eduardo Porter. I write the economic scene column here at the paper every Wednesday. The column that I write about is a lot about kind of policy, mainly economic policy, but also more or less about social issues. I write a lot about poverty, inequality, but also range broadly. I write about climate change. I've written about religion, politics. And the point of this little intro is that what I want to tell you is that I want to talk to students about economics, but I also want to talk to them about economics in the context of it being a tool, a very powerful tool to understand society. So I wrote a book a few years ago called The Price of Everything, and hence the title of this class. And the idea behind it is that there are assessments of value in pretty much every individual decision we make, and in fact, most collective decisions, if not all. Societal decisions, decisions by group, political choices. There are, sometimes hidden assessments of value, which are not, of course, always measured in dollars and cents, but they can be measured in, like, quality of life and things like that. So I want to take, the kids through kind of like a broad exploration of what these price assessments are and how they determine our choices, individual and collective. So, I want to talk about, how we value life as a society and how that leads, certain policies in certain directions, how we will pay for one road but not pay for another one, given, the government's value of a life saved by a better road. I will talk to people about the value of work and how that has also changed society as we have gone over time. Just the importance of the value of work in changing the role of women in society has been one of the most remarkable changes that we've seen over the last 100 years. I want to talk about the notions of fairness and how these change our assessments of value. Bring in the subject of income inequality that has become, such a relevant part of the political conversation these days. And then I also want to ground it in, our present economic and political reality, where we have a fairly unusual candidate running on the Republican side, and talk about how this is really responding to a set of economic circumstances that are unique, even though they've been growing over time, and you could have predicted some of the things that are happening now. This is really a manifestation of an economic reality that has just kind of exploded into our face, and I think it will take our politics in really unsuspected directions. So anyway, the idea again is to start more with the ideas of how economics can be applied to understanding our lives and our societies, into a more grounded use of them to understand our present, our today. And the idea is for kids to have fun with it. I want to not just lecture, but we want to play some games, have some fun, assess why a candy bar is worth what the guy at the store says it's worth and why not something else. Assess why, the La Marlera Indians in the Philippines might give an entire different answer to the question of the value of life than somebody sitting in Pittsburgh. So, I guess that's pretty much wraps it up, and I think it'll be fun. Anyway, take it easy.
Hi, I'm Ari Goldman, and I taught this morning. I know you're all here for the summer course, but we also ran weekend courses for the last several months. We were kind of beta testing this idea, see if we could do it, how it would work out. And earlier today, I took my group is 12 students, to the third floor, to the newsroom. And we were in the page one room of the New York Times, where every day the editors gather to meet to decide what's going to be on page one of the newspaper and what's going to be prominent on the website. And my students looked at me and said, "Could we sit down?" And I said, "Sure, let's sit down." And I sat in the executive editor's seat, of course, and the students sat around, and I said, "Okay, you're the Metro editor, and you're the foreign editor, and you're the national editor, and you're the politics editor, you're the photo editor, you're the sports editor, you're the science editor, you're the food editor. What should we put on page one?" That kind of thing you can't do anywhere else. You can only do it in this building. You can only do it on the third floor. And the beauty is you could do it with a group of students who are here for the weekends, as we've had, and we could do it with the students who are coming here this summer. So I'm really excited that so many people are interested and are signing up and want to know more about the School of the New York Times, and I hope you'll come this summer. Who am I to do this? I worked here for 20 years. I was a reporter here. I covered the suburbs, my first job. Then I covered politics. I covered education. I covered transportation, and I covered religion. So I was a reporter here. Then I left and got a job at Columbia University, where I teach in the Graduate School of Journalism. And I sort of put the New York Times behind me. But then I got a call from John Darnton. John was my Metro editor. And he said, would you come back and teach high school students? And I said, I teach graduate students. He said, would you teach high school students? And I said, didn't you hear me? I said, okay, let me try it. I have had the best time teaching high school students. They're wonderful, they're really engaged. I've learned a lot from them, and I want to see more. One of them said to me, I'll just tell you a couple of comments at the end of class, because we went around. I said, so what did you learn? He said, I used to think you had to be either a creative writer or a journalist, but now I realize you could be a creative journalist. One of them said, I like this journalism thing. It allows me to be an introvert and an extrovert. That's wisdom, and I think journalism does give you that opportunity. You could sit, you could write by yourself, but you're forced to talk to other people. I force everyone in the class to talk to strangers. So this girl, Joelle, in my class said, Professor Goldman, my whole life, my parents told me not to talk to strangers. You're telling me to go out to Times Square and talk to strangers. I said, that's okay, that's what journalists do. Now don't get worried. We're gonna watch your kids as they talk to strangers. We're gonna go out in groups. We're going to give them assignments. They're gonna be well supervised, and we're gonna teach them how to talk to people. And one of the beauties of this is they not only get to talk to strangers, they get to talk to the people in the class. They get to talk to their peers. And as Ray said, there are people coming for this course from around the world, from around the country and around the world. So I think it's just going to be very exciting to see the interaction between them and between the city that they're going to cover. So what are we going to do? It's going to be a little different because I'm going to have them during the week and not just on weekends. We're going to take the writing, the big city class, to ethnic neighborhoods. We're going to go to Jackson Heights and look at the different ethnic groups, and everyone's going to do a story about a different ethnic group. Actually going to work in small groups. We're going to visit some ethnic houses of worship, a mosque, a synagogue, a gurdwara, a temple. We're going to go to Citi Field and go to the press box. This has nothing to do with ethnic groups, but I have a friend in the press box, and we're going to go have a tour of the Citi Field. We're going to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and have a lesson on how to look. Someone there does a class called The Art of Perception, which teaches people how to look at paintings, how to look at a crime scene, how to look at a neighborhood. We have a lot of very exciting things on our agenda. It's going to be an adventure. As I said, we've beta tested it. We've gotten very good response. We've worked well with these young people, and we look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
So hi, everybody. I also taught this morning. I'm Shira Dicker, and full disclosure, we are married, so you also get a mom and dad as part of this summer thing. So what did I teach this morning? I taught the third class of Journalism Goes to the Movies, and I see some of my former students here, and I'm so excited that they are coming back this summer. I created a program this summer as a result of crashing a meeting. I think that that's fair to say. But the idea took fire, and it's called Passion City. And Passion City is going to be the cultural component, the after-hours supplemental component of this program to all the learning that's going on. And this also is learning, but it's also visiting, going over the Brooklyn Bridge at night with a New York historian, and going to the New York Classical Shakespeare Theater, and it's also going to Koreatown for dinner and karaoke, and it's also going to Lincoln Center out of doors, and it's also going to Midsummer Night's Swing, and it's also doing Inspired Word open mic, and on and on and on. We have a full array of wonderful excursions. They are voluntary. The first week, I believe we have 3 nights. The second week, we have 2 nights. And then each semester, we're going to turn Governor's Island into our laboratory for reporting and exploration, one of the Sundays of each semester. Just a show of hands, is anyone here familiar with Governor's Island? Okay, some of you are. Governor's Island is right off the southern tip of Manhattan Island, and it's kind of like this little floating New England wonderland. What is it doing there? During the summer, it used to be U.S. Coast Guard. It is now, during the summer, given over to a variety of artist organization, nonprofits, and there are residencies. And we are going to be unleashing the students there to do all kinds of different things. So let me tell you a little bit about how I came to this. I am a graduate of the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism, and I realized in the introduction to this that everything that I've done as a journalist has really been fueled by passion. And I have to sit down a second. Sorry, I just was up very early this morning.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Lois Raffin, and as Julie mentioned, I'm the department chair for English and Theater at Hunter College High School here in the city. I've been a teacher there for a long time. The dreadful truth is that when I was applying to college, I grew up here in the city. When I was applying to college, I wrote an absolutely awful college essay. It makes me just tremble to think about what I wrote. Now, fortunately, in that era, college essay wasn't very important. But I'm still trying to make up for what I did in writing that college essay, now in teaching personal writing. So I will be working with the younger students in the Explorations program, and we're going to be working on how to write a personal statement. Now, you all have written a personal statement for applying here. So you've been through it. You know that it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world, but it's also not the hardest thing in the world. And what will be my goal in working with you, and as I understand it, our schedule will be something like the students in the Explorations program, I will see you twice a week, and you will have time to work on a personal statement. You're going to discover that you have lots to write about. There are all kinds of things in your life that you can write about. So we'll brainstorm, we'll write, we'll edit, we'll peer edit, we'll look at pieces that other people have written, and it will all be with the goal that whenever you have to write a personal statement, whether it's for a summer program next year, whether it's something that maybe will turn into a college essay down the road when you apply to college, you will be comfortable and ready to do that, okay? And take the mystery out of it. I believe we'll also be taking a tour of the newsroom. So you will get to see some of what Ari was describing that as journalism students get to see. But I'm really looking forward to working with all the Exploration students. I believe there will also be 2 other teachers who will be working with me as well. So we'll be able to work one-on-one with you when you need help. Okay, if you have any questions, I'll be around later. You can ask me. Thanks.
Up very early. So I did want to just say one thing about the students that we've taught here. And it's been now 4 semesters because, in fact, Ari and I co-taught the first Writing the Big City. So obviously, the students who are drawn to this program are bright, but they're also culturally curious. And there's been tremendous support within the classroom setting. So I want to say it's been just a tremendous experience to see what happens between the students. And I look forward to Passion City just interacting with what happens during the course of the day, the evenings and the weekends, pulling it all together. And I look forward to seeing all of you guys this summer. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brooke Berman. I'm actually new to this program. I'm a playwright and filmmaker. I've been writing plays for 25 years. They've been produced in New York, all over the world, in Australia and London. And And then I started writing for the screen. And I was a screenwriter in Hollywood for almost a decade, and then began making my own films. So I've been a filmmaker for 2 years. And I will be teaching in the Explorations 2-day intensives, writing for the screen. And we'll sort of figure out what that is. We're going to write short films and maybe shoot them. We'll see. But I'm really excited about it. I've been teaching for 14 years, and the first age group I ever taught were high school students. And I feel like it's an extraordinary age because you have so much to say, and you haven't yet been told all the things you're not supposed to say. So I look forward to working with you guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Swati RA, and I will be teaching the class, The Future of Fashion, and I am so excited to have all of you here, and all the students that are going to be joining us, because what better city to teach the future of fashion. I have been a fashion entrepreneur and educator for over 15 years. I started my career as a designer working in India with fabric cooperatives and really learning a lot about the apparel supply chain and the changes that need to be made, and it made me think a lot about the things that you were saying in terms of consumer choices that we make, and the effect that they have, the sort of ricochet effect they have on what's actually happening globally and economically and also stylistically. We have a great class planned. We're going to be approaching the class from like 3 different perspectives, and the first one is going to be through wearable tech, and the second is going to be through 3D technology, and the third is going to be through the purview of ethical fashion. So wearable tech is going to be thinking about, like, you know, how we are able to wear things that are completely connected to technology, like things like our Fitbits or the Apple Watch, the iWatch. And then also like fabrics that respond to temperature, so you can go further on your hike, or you can get more oxygen if you're at a higher altitude, as well as, and then 3D technology is another great area where things are going to become so bespoke and so tailored to the individual by actually just using 3D printers to make clothing. And then through ethical fashion, which is about really looking at how we can make changes within the apparel industry, which is the second most destructive industry, second only to petroleum. And so a lot of the future is like, what can we do, like, to think about how changes can be made in that space. We're going to be kicking off the class with, of course, a visit to the New York Times, and the second day we're going to be going to the International Center for Photography, which has a brand new museum opening up this summer. And we'll be looking at how the future has been depicted through the history of photography. And one of the greatest museums in the world for photography will be led through some of the archival images from through the fashion curator there. And we will also be having a visit with the chief fashion critic at the New York Times, Vanessa Friedman. And how lucky are we that this year's Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute's annual exhibition is about technology's influence on fashion over time, and we'll be led through that with Sarah Scaturo, who is the chief fashion conservator at the Costume Institute. So we'll also be working with MakerBot, so they can show us how things are actually getting printed through 3D technology. And one of our other visits will be through Material Connections, which has an archive of really innovative textiles. Like, can you imagine, like, there's fabrics that are made out of bacteria or seaweed, or how are things being recycled? How are we recycling material to create less of an impact on the planet, but making them technologically innovative? And through all of this, in the afternoons, we're going to be having a lab talking about how we can actually make fashion. How can we conceive fashion that can make a difference, whether it's through technology or through the supply chain or through wearable tech. So we're going to be working on very small, like, capsule portfolios. So we will be having someone come in and teach very basic fashion drawing skills. So by the end of it, we'll all be able to do presentations about like 7 to 10 designs that you can take away with you as you've through your learnings through the class. We will also have a day talking about entrepreneurship and what fashion entrepreneurship looks like, because I know a lot of you want to work in the fashion industry, but it's really important to look at the nuts and bolts of what that means and what that would look like. And I know a little bit about that, having been in the business running. I also have a retail operation. I run a store in Brooklyn that is dedicated to ethical fashion and also local design. So I'm really looking forward to sharing all of my all of the experience that I've had, and feel free to come and talk to me if you have any questions. Okay? Thanks so much.
Hello. My name is Fernando Perez. I am teaching two very different courses, and my supporting cast is not here. I want to quickly introduce them. In the writing course that I am teaching, Nathaniel Small will be my co-instructor. He works for the Lake Forest Academy in Chicago, distinguished young teacher, really, really talented. I'm also teaching the sports media and marketing course with Ken Belson and Joe Favorito. Their bios are presumably in those packets. So I'll just get on to just a few remarks. You know, back to what Ray was saying, the spirit of the summer is not to give your kids so much homework. They're already doing that. Oh, sorry, hold it. You want me to hold? Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. So the spirit of the summer, obviously, is to be stimulated. I work with a lot of kids who are not college-bound for sure. I think everybody in here is probably college-bound for sure. Most of you guys going to very, very good schools. The difference between you guys and the rest of the kids that I work with through the city is they're not stimulated very much. You guys are probably all quite stimulated at home. The idea is to make you, to keep you stimulated while you're here. So while you won't have that much homework, what we would really, really like to do is getting you engaged with the press cycle. It's very, very easy to have feelings about things that you don't have to turn in. But once you are under a press cycle and you have to think very quickly about things, things start to change. So we're going to challenge the students there. In the writing course, I guess the highlight of the writing course is the salon. It's a rare treat in which students can talk freely about ideas, start to develop their ideas about things, really start to learn how to think. So it's very, very easy to say, this sucks, or this is wonderful. It's much more difficult to provide some nuance, and that's what they will be challenged to do if they really want to be writers. Some of our guests, we have James Hanahan coming. He just won the PEN/Faulkner Award. Darren Strauss won the National Book Critics Circle Award in 2011 for a memoir called Half a Life. It's a gorgeous book. Site visits for that course will be varied. We're going to go to some modern media providers like Slate, and then on the other side of the spectrum, hopefully we will be going to the New York Review of Books. For the sports course, sorry to switch gears, but I have two very different courses. For the sports course, this is sports media and sports marketing. So one of the visits will be, I would say, an off-brand sports media provider in Vice Sports. I work for Vice. I'm a baseball columnist for them. I'm also a baseball analyst. For Vice, I host a documentary show right now called Vice World of Sports. It's on the Viceland channel. It's essentially a micro-documentary program about sports. The Vice Sports office is quite different than the other visit, which will be the MLB.com office. That is a super integrated place that is churning out info, every 5 minutes or so. It's just, it's quite a spectacle. It'll be really, really fun to be there. It's a place that I work, and then we'll also go to Vice that is providing, obviously, a very, very different type of coverage and a very, very exciting place. That is basically all that I have. Very excited to answer any questions for you guys.
Thank you so far to everyone who's spoken. So also just joining us is Ben Cesario, who writes for the New York Times, and Ben is going to be teaching pop music as art and business. So Ben, would you come on up and tell the folks a little bit about yourself in the class? Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. So as Julie said, I cover music here for the Times. I started writing for this paper in '98. For a number of years, I was on the culture desk writing about music and musicians and how they work, and now I am on the business section in the media department. I cover the music industry and other aspects of the media. And I want to talk about both of those different kind of things in this class. It's deliberately titled Pop Music as Art and Business. We're going to take a close look at music, and we're going to read criticism. We're going to look at how critics do what they do, and as we said over there, it's easy to say thumbs up, thumbs down, I like this song, I don't like that song. It's hard to come up with a coherent argument and to learn how to look at music in the same critical way you might look at a book or a film and come up with something to say about it, and also try to understand what it says about our culture. And we're also going to look at the way the music industry works. We're going to talk about some of the new technology that's been transforming music so radically over, the last 10, 15 years here. We're going to talk about the conflicts that have happened between the music industry and the technology industry. We're going to talk about copyright. This actually is a fascinating time right now with copyright. Last year there was a big court case over the song "Happy Birthday to You." People may not know, but that song actually was under copyright for almost a century, and it was challenged by an independent filmmaker, and they actually won. So a year ago, you would have had to pay money if you wanted to technically sing "Happy Birthday" in a public setting, not just at your birthday party, but at a restaurant or put it in a TV show or something, and now you get it for free. And it just so happens that there's another very interesting case that will be going to court right before this class begins. It's about Led Zeppelin. The song "Stairway to Heaven" has been challenged by somebody, actually by the person who's dead now, but their descendants have challenged this song's copyright, saying it's not original, that it was stolen. And if anybody has ever looked into the history of Led Zeppelin, you know that this has happened many times in the past. So we're going to talk about some of those nuts and bolts. We're also going to hear from a number of people in the music field and in kind of related fields. I have the people who founded the Governor's Ball Music Festival, which is coming up in a few weeks right here at Randall's Island. It was started by 3 young guys. There are 31, I think. One of them has left. 2 of them, they're going to come in here, they're going to talk about how they got started, what you need to do to put on a music festival, all of the juggling act with the city and the permits and making Kanye West happy and making this person happy and that person happy and making the person who buys their ticket happy, and about just how complicated and important that whole part of the music world has become. We're going to hear from one of the creators of, you may have heard of it, there's an app called Genius. It used to be called Rap Genius. And it's this company that has this interesting history where they've sort of have this crowdsourced look at music lyrics, where they publish lyrics and people annotate them, kind of like a Wikipedia page. That's grown extremely fast, and they've also gotten some run-ins with the music industry over doing that. And we're going to hear how they dealt with that. We're going to hear from a young woman who has started a recording studio where people like Beyonce and Kanye West have worked and still work. Got some other cool guests lined up. But what I just want to leave you with is just the thought that we want this class to be an introduction to kind of looking seriously at pop music as culture, as art, and as a business that has all kind of impact with our society, with our culture. So I hope that you'll sign up and we'll have fun with it.
So at this point, I'll let the the faculty leave, since we'll move this into the administrative details part of the conversation, which will only cause them to regret me. But give them all another round of applause. And anybody who was looking to steal chairs, there's some vacant ones up front. And the number of the faculty will be around for a while after this, too, to take questions. So I want to spend some time now just sort of walking through some of the administrative details for the program, questions that I know people have in mind, and then spend some time taking questions from the people who are here and who are in the studio audience. And we had written yesterday to also solicit questions. And the one thing that I want to stress is that whether you ask your question now or whether you think of your question later today, just send it into the q@nytedu.com email address. I'm going to be answering all the questions in a single large document and sending that out to everyone. So all questions will get answered. And if you have that question but just don't find the chance to ask it today, don't worry about it. Just send it from home tonight. I really want to stress that, too, to everybody out there in the studio audience, that if you have questions, send them by email. You will get an answer in the next 24 hours, and those answers and questions are going to be shared with everyone. So at this point, a lot of the questions people have in mind are, what are the details about the dorms? What are the details about the forms we need to fill out, et cetera? You're going to be getting 3 packets of forms coming to you by email during the week of May 23rd. One of these will be a packet having to do with residential details. So everybody who is registered as a residential student will be getting a package with a sort of residential handbook with a set of forms that you need to complete in order to make the Fordham campus happy. That will include medical forms and other things. There will be a set of administrative forms that will be going out to everybody, which have things that we need to have on file and that we need to have completed prior to the start of the program. And then there will be a set of course-related forms and materials going out to people with details about what students should bring in particular to be prepared for their courses, what things students might read or do prior to coming to class, any decisions that students need to make regarding the academic program before it gets started. So those will be coming to you via email, landing on Tuesday the 24th. And we're going to need to have the forms for the students who are coming from term 1. We're going to need to have those back about a week later to keep everybody happy. And in general, we're going to need to have the forms back in hand about 2 weeks prior to the start of term. So just a heads up that that's coming. The single most common question asked is, what is the difference between being a residential student and being a non-residential student? And in particular, for the non-residential students, how is that going to work? And for the residential students, how is that going to work? So let me talk a little about what arrival day will be like. And again, this is going to be written up in detail and sent to you, so nobody needs to worry about taking notes right now. You can if you want, but it's all coming via email. So arrival is going to be roughly noon to 6 p.m. on the Sundays, first Sunday of term. That said, anybody who needs to make flight arrangements that come in earlier should contact us. Anybody who's going to be on a flight that's coming in later should contact us. But 12 to 6 is roughly the time that we would expect students to show up, move into their dorm, be ready to assemble for a welcome dinner that first day. For the airports, we will be running pickup and delivery service from Newark all day long, and we will be in touch with the form you need to fill out if you're sending students solo and you want them picked up at the airport. If students for some reason need to fly into airports other than Newark, that can be arranged, but there will be a fee associated with that because we're going to have to make special arrangements for that transit. But the transit from the Newark airport to the camp for students is built into the tuition. Someone wrote a question in asking if the airfare is built into the tuition. The answer is no, but everything else. And in the same way that arrival happens on departure day, we'll be bringing the students back to the airport. If you're flying into Newark, what will happen is the students will land, and as they come down to baggage claim, they will see somebody with a bright NYT EDU School of the New York Times shirt on, probably with a banner of some sort, and they will catch the student, identify themselves, collect the luggage, and corral the students, and then we'll be running a bus service bringing students to the dorm all day long. So that will be a long, smooth, orderly process. For the non-residential students, they basically are welcome to come and encouraged to come on that Sunday if they want to be part of the opening evening festivities. They're not required to do so. They will need to assemble in the mornings. Typical mornings, they'll need to arrive at the Fordham Lincoln Center campus between 8:30 and 9 a.m. And the classes will assemble there every morning, and regardless of what the activity of the day is, students will start by assembling at Fordham and will be proceeding apace from there. So on the first day, there will generally be a tour of the New York Times, and so we'll gather students there and bring them on over. Students who are residential will have woken up, eaten breakfast, and come to the assembly point. Students who are non-residential will have traveled in by whatever means and come to the assembly point. Then once we have everybody assembled, the RATAs will bring them on over to where the program's happening. We will have roughly 12 full-time residential staff with the students during the program. These are residential counselor/TAs, so they serve both as the people providing the residential life and also as teaching assistants. So we want a tight integration of life and class in this way. They are college-age students or recent graduates, all of whom have had residential life experience at the undergraduate level or previous experience working in residential life situations in programs like this or in other sort of summer camp situations. So they're mature, responsible, trusted individuals, and we will have lots of them around. We'll also have a number of non-residential program staff that will be facilitating and helping to coordinate this to make sure everything is smooth. So the non-residential students will be expected to show up between 8:30 and 9. The non-residential students are, of course, they'll be part of lunch. Then as to when do they leave? Well, the typical day, and I will stress that no day is typical, but the typical day, roughly the program, quasi-academic program part is going to wrap up around 3:30, 4 p.m., and then there'll be a snack and then sort of games and recreation until dinner. Non-residential students would certainly be welcome to leave at that point, or they're welcome to stick around and be part of the afternoon activities. They're welcome to stick around and be part of dinner, which will generally be from 6 to 7. They're welcome to stick around and be part of Shira's Passion City activities, part of the evening tour that we'll take in the first week of the New York Times printing press, part of the general activities going on. 9 o'clock, typically on the nights, is when everyone's back at the dorm and we start working through 9 o'clock in the dorm, 10 o'clock in your room, 11 o'clock lights out. So the non-residential students would need to leave by 9 p.m. and they could leave as early as 3:30, 4 p.m. And that's really going to come down to each student to decide what makes the most sense for them. And that's something that we'll expect them to communicate to us so that we know what to expect as far as their comings and goings. On the weekends, there is nothing academically necessary happening on the weekends, so the non-residential students can basically view themselves as being off from Friday evening to Monday morning if they want. That said, they are welcome to participate fully over the weekend, in which case they would assemble in that 8:30 to 9 a.m. window. They can be part of the Saturday activities, part of the Sunday's excursion to Governor's Island, part of the evening activities, again, up until 9 p.m. So that's something that we'll be sending you in these materials, the rough program of activities, so that each individual can make a determination as to for which days do they want to stay late, which days are they going to be taking off in the afternoon. The goal is to make it maximally convenient to the non-residential students so that they can really decide what they're doing, but to make that something that doesn't impact negatively the experience of the residential students. So we want everybody to have a rich and wonderful time. There is something ineffable about being in residence, and there are plenty of conversations about the meaning of life that will inevitably take place when students should be sleeping, and that will then lead to students sleeping in class the next day, and that's something the RCTAs will be working to prevent, but it's going to be a great time either way, and it really is the reason why we have this as an option is we really are ready to accommodate both options. As to the question of what does the typical day look like, again, I will stress no day is typical, but the typical day would generally be assembly in that 8:30 to 9 a.m. period. The students will come to wherever the class is meeting that day, in the classroom, in the field, what have you. The morning will generally be the sort of didactic part of the day where the instructor will be working directly with the students, conveying new information, teaching them what have you. Around 11:30, 12 o'clock, we break for lunch. After lunch, we reassemble, and then typically the class will have a 2.5 to 3 hour session that's led by the TAs, where the students have broken into project teams, where they're working on their course projects or their individual assignments or doing other doing other class-related work. Days that they're in the field, that could be the TAs are then taking them around to whatever exhibits or events they're looking at. But generally, sometime around 3:30, 4 o'clock, we're breaking for snack, and the mid-late afternoon is generally unstructured time for students to do recreation and otherwise unwind. And then, again, after dinner is when the evening cultural activities will take place. Of course, certain activities are going, such as when Shira mentioned, a twilight walk across the Brooklyn Bridge with the historian. That will tend to occur during twilight. Other activities are going to have an impact on the regular day. So that's some of the common questions that have come in. Other questions that, Julie, you're signaling?
Yes, I'm signaling because there's just a couple of really basic questions to bring before we
Yeah.
And then if we can also talk about the safety, we're getting a lot of questions about that.
Oh yeah, so safety. One of the things that we are, that I should stress is that, so the program is meeting on the Fordham campus at Lincoln Center. Students will have sort of free reign of the campus, but they're not allowed to go off campus unless they're accompanied by the RCTAs. So there will be general activities if it's the case that it's 8:30 p.m. and as a cultural activity, a dozen or so kids want to go to Shake Shack or something like that, and they can cajole one of the TAs into going with them, totally fine. Half a dozen kids want to go to Shake Shack by themselves? Absolutely not. I mean, this is something where we're responsible for the kids when they are traveling off campus. If they're in the residential program, when they're traveling off campus, they're always going to be accompanied by the TAs. When they're going from the dorm to where the class is meeting, so if for the law class, if we're meeting the instructor at the Eastern District Courthouse, then it's going to be a couple of the RCTAs traveling with the class group over there. Most of the travel within the city is going to be on the subway, and we'll have a giant stack of Metro cards, and the TAs will be responsible for having those to make sure that we get the kids everywhere they're going. Any trips that are further afield will likely be either rail or by hired coach. But we're going to keep the kids well supervised throughout, and there are a variety of other safety-related policies, zero tolerance on drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. Anything like that is going to have the kids finding themselves sort of removed from the general program and waiting for the parents to come and pick them up and remove them more generally. So we can't have any messing around with that. Obviously, no firearms, weapons, or things like that. So all of these will be in the program handbook that comes out on the 23rd, but we do want to emphasize that safety is a matter that we take very seriously here. We're going to return your kids in better shape than you left them. Sort of heads filled with knowledge. They'll be tired. They'll probably sleep for a week, but in one piece. And then as for what to bring, again, that will be part of the packet that goes out on the 24th. It's, the kids are going to be here for 2 weeks. So one of the things, there will be laundry facilities at the dorms. Probably the single most important question is for people to decide, are they bringing enough clothes that they never need to do laundry? Or are they bringing enough clothes with the expectation that over the weekend they will do laundry? We will probably be going to Coney Island on the weekend. Depend people if they want to bring appropriate wear for such activities. We will leave it to people, but there will be a long list with all of those details. Farah, other questions that Ed? Oh, yeah, laptops. So we would encourage and expect everybody to bring their laptops. We will have some loaner laptops, and part of the forms that you'll be filling out is if you don't have a laptop that you can bring and let us know, and then we will make arrangements so that there'll be something for you to use. But we do expect this to be predominantly paperless, meaning we expect people to have laptops, and we'll have printers available so that they can print their paperless documents. But in general, people should have laptops. And we'll also be passing out, the goal of the program is to provide as much as possible for the students to use. So we will be giving kids notebooks and pens and stuff like that. If people have favorite pens or favorite notebooks, of course they should bring those. But there will be a lot of New York Times related swag being made available to the students. People have asked about spending money. All of the programs, all of the activities that we're doing, they're included in the tuition. The runs to Shake Shack and things like that are not. So part of the spending money, pocket money question really is, what do students expect they're going to be doing or wanting to spend money on outside of the core program? Souvenir acquisition and whatnot is, again, something that's up to students. I know that in some of the programs that I've run in the past, the kids are eager to go out and do shopping at various times. So again, those are questions for individual conscience. Those in Swati's course or Eduardo's course will sort of learn the ramifications of those decisions to wider consequences.
So a lot of students who are currently enrolled in Term 2 want to know details about July 4th and whether or not, if they're a day student, should they still come in? If they're a residential student, what are they going to be doing that day?
Yeah, so on the 4th of July, there won't be any required programming. So if you're a day student and you have some 4th of July tradition, you can still observe it. We will be doing something quasi-celebratory 4th of July-ish that we haven't figured out yet what that is. It may be that if there's a strong desire for people to go see the hot dog eating contest, that may occur. And the sports course can view that as a competitive sport activity. So there will be some sort of 4th of July programming, but nothing required. Other questions? Yeah. Yeah, so that's another good question. So residential students, there will be certain days and times where residential students can make arrangements, rather, shall I say, their parents can make arrangements ahead of time for the student to go off with family in the area or some other responsible outside party. And the weekend will be one of those times. The 4th of July would be one of those times. But generally, it is going to be either the weekend or the 4th of July because there is so much activity happening during the week, and that activity is germane to the program that, given that these are 2-week programs, it's disruptive to have kids wandering off too much. But but from Friday evening to Monday morning or Tuesday morning in the 4th of July weekend, those are times where students will be able to make arrangements. So the classes will meet in a variety of locations. And so the question is, are the classes taught at Fordham or here? And the answer is the classes will meet in a variety of locations. So most classes will have, on the first day, there will be a meeting here, and they'll do a tour of the Times Building. On the last day of class, we do a demo day where students who have been in the intensives, who have produced substantive projects, have an opportunity to present those or to present the best of those to the assembled group, which we'll do in this room. During the week, the classes will meet at Fordham or meet out in the field. And that really comes down instructor by instructor. I know that Ari Goldman, because he really wants to get the kids out into the ethnic neighborhoods, a lot of the classes will be meeting out and about in the field. I know one day he'll have the class meet up at Columbia in space there. So the classes really are going to be out and about. And we do want to, part of the motivation for that is it's very easy if you tell an instructor you're going to be in this room every day from 9 to 12 for them to fall into a mindset of delivering a traditional class. We want these to be non-traditional classes, and for that, we really want space to be on our side.
In terms of bringing in laptops, are there certain computer programs like InDesign, like Photoshop, that you would want us to have on our laptops so we can use them in our classes?
That will be instructor by instructor, and so in the sort of the course-related materials that go out on the 24th, that list would be there.
We have a question over here.
Yes.
A quick question. How large are the groups?
So the target size is about 20 to 24. And most of the groups are going to fall in that bound. A couple of classes will be smaller.
Briefly talk about the dress code and what they need to bring.
Dress code, dress appropriately. Yeah, so on the course, yeah. So there will be, in the materials that go out on the 24th, there'll be the general recommendations of types of clothing to wear and how to dress for Manhattan in June, July, and August. And then for courses like the economics course, since they are going to Goldman Sachs, then they'll be sort of required for this course, you need to bring your business casual attire. Or if some other course was going off on some activity, the writing the big city course on the day that they go into houses of worship to report, then presumably modest clothing.
Is it the same teachers there for the intensive and the explorations?
So that was a subset of the total teachers. So depending on the exploration and what's going on, those individuals may or may not be involved. I mean, that is going to be sort of case by case. For the fashion-related stuff, Swati is probably involved. For the writing the big screen, Brooke is definitely involved. For the personal writing component, Lois is definitely involved. Shira is going to be involved across the board with the cultural activities. So that, there's sort of some variation there.
In terms of the literature had said something about the students prepare a portfolio, and I was just wondering if the portfolio they prepare in the intensive programs is a hard copy or an online portfolio?
So what the students will wind up doing for their project portfolios, they will have, there will certainly be a digital version. They will likely bring a hard copy home as well. And we will be filming the presentations on demo day, and so then they'll have the digitized film of their presentation. So they'll have sort of a rich panoply of modalities of what they've presented. So if they're repackaging some of this stuff for college applications, they'll have a good source set that they can draw from.
We have a question from the back over here. How are we doing room assignments? Are students going to be able to meet each other prior as well?
So in some sense, this is the opportunity for students to meet each other prior. As for room assignments, when the informations go out on the 24th, those in the residential program, there will be a place where you can put down if you have any specific individual roommate requests. Generally, the roommate assignment is going to be sort of a random draw, but people who have a particular roommate in mind can certainly make that request, and if both people make that request, then those two individuals may likely wind up rooming together. But if only one individual makes the request, that probably won't happen. Other questions?
My daughter, who couldn't attend, wanted to know if there might be a Facebook page for the kids to communicate and get to know each other.
Audrey, do you want to?
Yeah, hi. One of the things that we definitely want to have as part of our program is to ensure that it is a blended experience, meaning that we will use technology in the best way possible to create a good educational experience and also a community. So we will have a Facebook group. It will be private. It will be for the students to interact and exchange.
And then we're also going to be running some sort of in-house contest with other parts of social media, Instagram, Twitter, if anybody still uses that, and related things, which we'll be explaining to the kids sort of how they can participate in that. But we want this to be something where if they're having fun, they're shouting it loudly to the world. And definitely we want them to be able to meet each other before they get here, and more importantly, stay in good communication after they've left. Yeah.
Hi. If I'm a runner, is there time and space for me to do that, like in the mornings before classes? Like, is there a...
Yeah, so the assembly is going to be between 8:30 and 9 a.m. So if you're a runner who likes to get up early, you'll have plenty of opportunity to do that. If you want to go out and run the road and whatnot, then we're going to need to dig up, and we have some already in stock, counselors who are ready to go running. And so what we would probably do is establish like those, this sort of the Times Runners Club assembles at 6 a.m. or whatever and goes off. And then similarly, in that sort of 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. window is an opportunity to do that as well. People who want more casual type of activities in that time, can truck over to Central Park, again, with counselor. As for other athletics facilities, the general rule for universities is they are scared to death at letting people who are under 18 use their athletic facilities. And so that fear is going to cast over here. So people who are looking to use weight rooms or things like that, that's not going to be possible. So we have time for a few more questions in group form, and then we'll break it up. And some of the instructors are still out there they haven't eaten all of the brownies, with whatever brownies are left, and happy to take individual questions in here. But if there are a couple more questions for the group.
This could be a dumb question, but like, are the instructors that were up there the only ones that are in the thing?
No, there are more instructors.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, a number of the instructors were unable to make it here today. And for that, they send their apologies, but they're still enthusiastic to teach you. Which course are you in? Yeah, the writing for television. So Brooke, who was here, who's doing the writing for television part for the explorations, but the woman doing the writing for television for the intensive was not able to make it.
And maybe we can take a couple questions from live stream.
Okay. Students want to know from their states if they're going to have an opportunity to connect so they can travel and coordinate together.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. And so we will set up very quickly an opportunity for people to post, like, I'm in this place traveling on around this time, anyone else nearby? And we'll let folk coordinate that among themselves, but we'll certainly set up a space in the next few, by Thursday of this week for people to share that kind of information. Any other questions coming from the ether? Or any other questions in this room? Take one more of each.
So if you can talk about just some team building activities on Sunday when people check in.
So there will be team building activities on Sunday when people check in. That's something that, so earlier I said that for these programs on the academic side to really work well, it comes down to the quality of the faculty and the students. For the team building activity, that really comes down to the residential staff. And they have been assigned to come up with ideas. We're going to be spending the week prior to the first students arriving, running them through training and planning for that. And that is really something that they need to lead. So I don't want to say anything now which might paint them into a corner. But I'll just give people assurances that a lot of ice breaking and other sorts of team building activities happening that Sunday night. And Monday, sort of in addition to sort of first class and coming over to the Times, there'll be some amount of team building type activity around just getting familiar with the space and the dorm area and the environs and how all of that works. So that's sort of stuff that will be accomplished that Sunday and Monday. So one last question from inside, and then.
So I wanted to know, my son's birthday falls on one of the days. Can I take him off his residential program? Can I take him to dinner?
Yeah, if for extraordinary circumstances, we can certainly make accommodations. But those sorts of things, I'd say just, reach out to us individually. Okay, everyone, let me thank you all for coming here today, and certainly with plenty of time left for us to take questions individually. I'll be hanging out in here. There are some of the instructors hanging out by the refreshments, and I look forward to seeing everybody this summer. Thank you.